You're watching News 4, your local news leader. Now, live from Buffalo, this is News 4 at 5.
That night, a little before 10, I heard the plane. I knew it was in trouble.
Never did the firemen on the scene, at least on my side of the plane, ever think that the people would be from the town of Clarence.
It was a long night, and the town hall started filling up. Volunteers and people who just wanted to help. Through those memorials and otherwise, and all the work of this community, we will never forget.
Members of the Clarence community and Western New Yorkers alike are remembering a somber moment in our community's history. Good evening to you. It was 10 years ago tonight that Continental Flight 3407 crashed into a home in Clarence Center, killing 50 people.
It's considered the worst aviation disaster in modern times. And tonight, we look back at those who were part of that tragic scene.
Colgan 3407, turn left heading 330.
Left heading 330, Colgan 3407.
It appeared to be a routine flight. 3407 was just a few miles away from the runway. Then air traffic controllers lost communication.
Colgan 3407, Buffalo. Colgan 3407, Buffalo Tower, how do you hear? Either state police or sheriff's department need to find out if anything is on the ground. This aircraft was 5 miles out, and all of a sudden we have no response to that aircraft.
Is there anybody in there? I know where my husband is. Oh my God.
Here's alternative stations, radio silence, incident zone 2.
The radio silence was deafening. Chaos broke out on the ground. What happened to the plane? Inspector Steve Negrelli of the state police was in charge of securing the crash site.
As we got the calls, it started out as a smaller plane. And as I got closer to the scene, the realization was that this was commercial. But even knowing that, it wasn't until I saw that Continental tail fin sticking off in that inferno that it really hit home.
News 4's Lisa Flynn left the newsroom that night, rushing to the scene, believing a small plane had gone down.
The mission then was, what kind of plane is this? How many people were on it? Who's hurt, you know? And the person who said, I'm standing right next to the plane, I said, is it a two-seater? And they said, no, it's a passenger plane. I'm standing looking at the tail sticking out of a house, and there's 50 people dead.
As first responders raced to the scene, it became obvious this was a mass casualty.
It was readily apparent that there would be no survivors on the plane. As soon as I walked up, it was a raging inferno. The home, the Walensky house, was fully engulfed. You could tell that no one would ever survive that crash.
Lisa Flynn knew it was a major disaster.
The biggest thing I noticed was ambulance after ambulance after ambulance coming and then being sent away. So you knew they weren't needed. That was really scary and sad, and that's when I think reality set in.
And before long, everyone realized the gravity of the tragedy.
That's the first time I've ever cried on the air. I broke down, like, voice trembling. It was so sad to think.
It's not supposed to happen here. And that's what I kept on thinking. Although we train for mass casualty events, all the first responders, and that's why we were so coordinated that night. You train and prepare, but you hope it never happens. And just seeing that plane and the realization that this is going to be a huge mass casualty, the largest ever in Western New York, the largest loss of life at one time. It really hit home.
Negrelli became the liaison between law enforcement and the victims' families, dealing with extreme grief.
It became personal. It no longer was just the number 50 anymore. It was 50 lives, 50 families, 50 hopes and dreams. That's what it became to me.
He became their friend, and the families wrote him a thank you note that he still carries in his wallet to this day.
On behalf of the families of Continental Flight 3407, we'd like to express our deepest gratitude to all the agencies who work so hard in such a professional way during our time of grief. And the respect you have given to us, our families, and especially the respect and dignity you are given to our loved ones who are aboard Continental Flight 3407 is valued and appreciated by us all.
And you carried that every day?
For 10 years.
But the question persisted. What caused the plane to go down? Before long, the NTSB investigation revealed it was pilot error.
Flight director shows a series of severe pitch and roll excursions within seconds of the 15 flaps command.
This happened in our backyard, in our community, made national, international news. And then to see the report come out and how it could have been prevented, and it's just a waste.
They are the strongest people I know because of them and their determination. Rules have been changed. Laws have been enacted to protect us, the flying public, because of them. They could have went away, but the family stood up and said, not again, not to some other family. And they pushed, and they have determination. I want them on my side. These people never gave up.
And because of the families of Flight 3407, we have new laws now requiring pilots to be better trained, all in an effort to keep the sky safer for all of us, hopefully to prevent another Flight 3407 from ever happening again.
And coming up at 5:30, we'll have a look at the legacy of the victims of Flight 3407. We'll also have more at 6, 10, and 11 as the families gather for a vigil tonight. And on News 4 at 11, I'll take a look at how this tragedy touched all of our lives. And as we turn to your forewarned forecast tonight, there is something interesting to note, and that is that the weather we're seeing tonight, rainy and cold, is similar to the weather we experienced the night of the tragic crash. You can see conditions right now over downtown Buffalo. Several advisories are in place right now for many counties.
And tonight we're going to see more snow. Our chief meteorologist, Todd Santos, is here with more. Todd?
Yeah, we're watching a scenario where basically around 2 to 3 a.m. we're going to get Buffalo and a lot of the surrounding metro areas back down to freezing. So anything that's still wet, slush, and all that is likely to start freezing. Thing is, we also have some snow chances, and that starts later on tonight. So a lot of things going on. I'll start here in North Tonawanda. 1.6 inches worth of snow reported here, and you can see some slushy coatings, especially on the ground surfaces, especially as the camera turns there. Now, the rain may have helped a little bit clearing off some of the streets, especially as cars are going through. It gets all sloppy and kind of chops things up. But we still have winter weather advisories that go until 10 p.m. across our northern counties and until 6 p.m. across, say, just McKean County. Potter, that winter storm warning also expires at 9 p.m. So we'll see improving conditions in some ways as far as what's still falling, but keep in mind, as temperatures drop, we're going to start seeing things freezing. And there are still some of you that have temperatures at freezing with freezing rain still coming down. From Springville down through Olean, Wellsville, Bradford, PA, and Coudersport, all of these areas and a lot of little pockets in between where temperatures are below freezing, you still have ice accumulating on things, power lines and all that. Right now, I just saw 15 power outages total, so that's good. We're doing great so far. I feel bad for the 15, but you understand what I'm getting at. That's one thing we'll have to watch. We will, at least in the short term, see some of those areas warming up. I think the bottom line for tonight's forecast, it's a little easier to grasp. Instead of all these mixed precip types, we'll be seeing some additional rain for the next couple of hours, and then it switches over pretty cleanly to snow, and you can see that on the back edge of things. That shows up in Buffalo by around, say, 3 to 4 a.m. And we'll take a closer look in the model coming up, but where you see this orange, that's where we are still finding some pockets of freezing drizzle, if not even a little bit of sleet mixing in kind of here and there. So be safe driving around, especially, the southern tier where the temperatures are really borderline. We also have a wind advisory that's going to start tonight into tomorrow. So for tomorrow, we'll be talking about some snow chances, minor amounts, 1 to 2 inches for a lot of areas. So that's even revised down a little bit because of the condition of the ground that it's going to be landing on, but the winds are going to be picking up as they shift to the southwest later on tonight. So I'll have more on that coming up. I think in general, early on, our gust potential is around 45, but we start to see the gust potential in near 50 miles per hour into the early morning hours tomorrow. So we'll check in on that, and then the quieter piece of the week coming up. Don, Jackie.
Thank you, Todd. Straight ahead in 2 minutes, it's the end of an era. New Era's Derby plant will close now as scheduled. We'll tell you what deal was hammered out to help the workers who are losing their jobs.
And then coming up at 5:30, President Trump says he is not pleased by the bipartisan border security deal. We'll tell you what could happen if he doesn't sign the legislation.